in this phase of life, I'm obsessed with this idea of the power of a decision and how to activate that, and what's the difference between, a decision that sticks and one that doesn't. For you, walk me through that, because it was just a choice.
Yeah, and this subject can really ruffle feathers, but my wife and I are very matter of fact, and that's just kind of how we've always been, very frank and matter of fact. Not to the point of just trying to hurt people, but like we don't really allow for a lot of excuses with our kids, with us. The pursuit of growing our businesses. We tend to hold on even longer sometimes than we should because we're like, maybe we didn't try that or whatever, because we just don't like excuses. And so I think that, we, especially in America, and having had the privilege of traveling to other countries, I've seen other cultures. And so there's, especially in the Italian culture, from what I've noticed, although they're kind of, uh, I don't know if emotional is the right, but just very,
Passionate.
passionate
we'll go
people,
we'll
right?
go with that word.
But they're also very matter of fact. Like, this is, you just buy the bread. You don't think about it. You just kind of, this is what you do every day. You don't think about the frustration of having to go to the market every morning, or whatever the thing is, or not having some of the luxuries that we have here in America. And so I think that what we find here is that people tend to camp out on these things. And I know there's realities to, subjects like PTSD and subjects like losing a loved one, and depression can be a real thing, in the right or wrong environment, however you want to word that. But I think, everyone, well, a lot of people like to say, well, you don't know my situation, right? And so, and although there's truth in that, no one knows anybody's situation, and we all have different levels of what we're able to handle and take on. And so, yeah, maybe my sobriety story, for example, I just had this conversation with somebody who I didn't qualify for his podcast because my story wasn't bad enough. And that's fine. Like, I probably wouldn't reach his audience because his audience is at a different mental place. I get it. However, the things that we've gone through in life, the things that what I'm coming to understand now is my walk as being married for 28 years, being the dad of 11 children, four grandchildren now, for a parent for 26 years, starting very young from nothing, no roots before us, no foundation, no anything. Um, you learn a lot, and so there's a lot of life lessons that I'm realizing, or that's what I've been applying to this sobriety thing, or that kind of was the switch. And so once I admitted to myself that I was an alcoholic, I couldn't do this by myself, and that I wasn't any different than any other man. That was my big thing, was I'm different. I can handle it. I can, I function better. I'm more laid back. I'm more fun. The reality is that, alcohol may have exposed that in me, but it was already there. So now it was time to walk in those places that I thought alcohol was making me better at, just as me, right? And I mean, I've heard musicians talk about this, artists talk about this. I don't fully know how to say the definition of what an imposter syndrome is, but the idea is that you can't really fully accept the value that you can bring, is kind of how I understand, a part of it. And so people think that alcohol is what was making them perform better or do this. But the truth is it's already in you. That the talent, the work, the whatever you put in is already there. And so, yeah, I don't know, we tend to camp out on excuses so often. And I think that there's realities we need to face, situations, part of our situations we can change, some things we can't. And I'm the first one to want to go to a reason why I can't do something, and my wife is the last one. And but it's generally how we operate out loud, is we're the last ones, as a couple, as a one group. And so, so I don't like it. I mean, excuses aren't benefit. There's no value. Again, it's like, what's the value in this excuse? I mean, let's acknowledge the reality. Can we change anything about it? Great, do it. If we can't, then then you have to adapt, or just give up now. Like, I don't understand. I mean, I'm not in for people taking their lives at all. Like I don't, I wouldn't, I would never support that and would never want to present that as an idea or an option for anybody, especially if they feel like they're at a weak spot. But I do wonder, I'm like, if you just want to camp out in this place, like why do you even show up? Why do you exist at all? You know, there's your level of greatness is going to be different than mine or yours. But if you just want to camp out on all these excuses, and I get guys that do this, they just want to unload all their stuff, and I'm like, so why did you reach out? Just because you want to tell someone else about your problems? Like, okay, we've acknowledged it. Now what are we going to do? You know, it kind of has to be you know, we guys in war, you know, I haven't experienced that and the traumatic stuff that have happened, but you know, or childhood trauma, you know, I've had family members that have dealt with that, and that's harsh, and it does stuff that you have to process through, but it shouldn't keep us at this place of like, now this is our identity, right? And that's easier said than done. I totally get it, and our life experiences will determine how we understand that. But the truth is the truth, no matter in what situation it's in. And we just, I think, because we, especially in America, like I said, want to have these titles, you know, like I'm ADHD or I'm PTSD or I'm an alcoholic or I'm poor or I'm, you know, like you name all these different titles we put on ourselves. Uh, I've seen too many people and I've experienced overcoming things myself that I didn't think were possible. And I've seen too many people do the same, do the impossible. And it all starts with just choosing to do it. And you figure out the obstacles, you know, instead of camping out. Well, instead of camping out on the weak part, you know.
So that's what I was actually going to ask here is it sounds like, to quote Tony Robbins here, awaken the giant within. What I'm wondering here as you're describing this is, did you always, even when you were 146 pounds, 6 foot, all those years ago, was there always this whisper inside of you that there's more? Or let me explain why I asked this. I should say that is I was sitting and I was having dinner with somebody who's not crazy poor. He's a contractor, very smart guy. He's got money. He's not riding around, with billions and millions, and he's not one of these cats, but he's doing well. And I actually asked him at one point, and this is the first time this has ever happened to me in my life, and it happened to me multiple times since then, but I just casually asked him one day while eating a hamburger, preface, in a burger restaurant I later bought and sold, which is why I had to do 75 hard, because I got fat, and it's really easy when you keep that environment around you and you're there from 3 in the morning to 3 at night, literally sleeping on the bench. This is like a real story, right? But I sat with this guy, and there was a point to that, and I asked him, like, do you feel like you're gonna do something, that you have to do something, that you have something big inside of you? And I'll never forget the moment, because he had to think about it. That alone, if somebody asks me, I don't have to think about it. Now, I don't want to show the hubris to be like, I'm the next Elon or Steve Jobs. But at the same time, I don't have to think about it. It's like, I know there's more inside of me. I know I have impact. I know I have something to do. And then after that, this is like 7 years ago, 6 years ago, it happened to me multiple times later. And then I had this realization, not everybody actually has that little giant within them, that they're just waiting to make a decision or turn that switch. And it was this realization because I thought everyone did. And that's kind of why I'm asking you, in terms of when you made this decision, was this lingering for years that you just knew, hey, you could do better, you're not living, or was it just like radical transformation?
It's funny. We talk about this a lot in my family. Actually, this personality stuff which is the root of this, in my opinion. We use the Enneagram. That's kind of the one that we choose to go to, and so my wife's really big into it. So my personality, like I would be the guy that had to think about it. I just would, like, there was no. But my wife, like, I mean, she would probably say it before you got the question out, like she's super passionate and thinking about the future and thinking about all these big things all the time, and so I've always felt well, in the past, I'd felt a little inferior to that. And however, I will say that, before I started drinking, so up until about from 20 years, 19 years old, that's when I got married to 38. So for that, almost 20-year period, um, I was always very driven in like the work I did. I was the guy that people talked about. I was leaving my stamp at every job. Like people knew my work. Um, I was, sought after in the industry, I guess you should say, you could say, but but I still had limitations on myself, things that I just thought I was always going to be the skinny guy, and that's just what it was. And I struggle with that quite a bit. I don't think people understand when you're at that level of skinniness, that although I've never been fat, I when someone harps on your weight, no matter if it's too much or too little, there's elements of it that you think you can't do anything about, and so it can be painful with the wrong mindset, And so I just my personality was so I would lean on my abilities. I'm like, even though I'm the small guy or skinny guy or whatever, I can outwork anyone. Was kind of the mindset that I had, but I had really no. Although I had started a couple businesses, on my own, landscaping, lawn care, whatever, and the farming stuff, I never really had a lot of drive. I never really had a lot of vision. I have a lot more of that now, although it was definitely, the 9 years of drinking definitely just kind of completely covered that up. Like I didn't have any of that, but now it's working itself out a little bit more clearly. I still have a hard time thinking a lot about the future because, like, even when I first started working out, like, there's not a lot of before videos or pictures because I didn't really know what I was going to be accomplishing or doing. I just knew that I wanted to get better at. I didn't want to have trouble walking up the stairs in our house at 45 years old or 46. Like it was things were just starting to click in my brain. I'm like, I'd read I think I had been exposed to that Dr. Peter at he talks about like, aging and stuff a lot. I don't remember what his,
Peter Attia.
yeah, talks about aging a lot. And it just got me to think, like all these little practical things you can do to kind of determine where you're going to be when you're 80. And I'm like, I've already got 4 grandkids. Like I need to get a handle on this because for even though I felt kind of out of shape and weak in a lot of areas, I I wasn't I had been thinking about what living for longer periods of time, and it was kind of scaring me. So I think I got off track there a little bit, but yeah, I wasn't, I'm not that, I would have been the guy in the hamburger shop that had to think about it for a second, and that's just, and what I understand with personalities, like, I don't know if you're even familiar with that Enneagram or whatever, but I probably have an assumption of what you are, what little knowledge I know, but my wife and I complement each other for sure, in our personalities, but she is definitely the driven one. So yeah, I wasn't chomping at the bit to I didn't know what I could accomplish. I knew what I could do, like in making things and a job, but I didn't know I had no real experience in fitness. I had no real experience in anything like that. So I just kind of thought this is just how I was, and so somehow I needed to figure out how to accept it.
What's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.